Good evening, everybody. I know it's late. I am working late tonight. It's been one of those days. It's been super busy, and I am just excited about sharing some of this astrology that's happening this week. It's a lot of intense energies, and it's almost like we're kind of being primed. Some of us might have felt more last week coming into this week, but I feel like it's one of like those kind of ramp offs, where we're starting here and go whoosh. Um, so what I'm really going to be talking about today, and I have my little jottings on this whiteboard. I have a little mini whiteboard, so I could try to show you some of what I'm talking about. Okay, so on July 22nd, Venus stations retrograde in the sign of Leo. And um, there's a lot of different layers here, but really, I called this video Yod Marks the Spot. So, what a Yod is, it's a configuration in astrology when there are two planets quincux another planet, and basically it's like it's shaped like an arrowhead, and it's pointing to a planet. So it's the two planets on the bottom of the arrow that form the base are in a sextile, so they're in a harmonious aspect. And then from this planet to this planet and this planet to that planet that makes the triangle, on either side is a quincunx or an inconjunct. So this basically is, and there's a lot of different theories about what this aspect means. And has been gaining more interest in the astrological communities. I've been noticing that as I'm, often studying these things, so then I can talk about them with you and talk about the archetypal implications of this, because we know that story, right? Archetype is story. Um, Really is like the lifeblood of humanity, the lifeblood of the planet. That's how we learn, that's how we survive, that's how we innovate, that's how we create, is through story. That's how we create our reality. So the story, really, this yod marks the spot, is we have a yod that's pointing to Venus and another yod at the same time pointing to Neptune. So I'm going to talk about also the different Egyptian deities, because I'm layering on some shamanic Egyptian astrology, because I'm seeing some really cool things that we can learn from, and that we can utilize this energy, utilize this story, right, in our lives, find that place that it works and fits for us and teaches us something, helps us release energy, right? That's what happens when when we read a story, when we get to, um, we get to see the conflict, we get to see the resolution, and those points are the points that literally the brain fires off endorphins and all kinds of, feel good chemicals, right? Um, and really, we're seeing both the odds pointing to Venus, who is in who is represents Isis in Egyptian astrology, and Neptune, which represents Nephthys, which is she's the twin sister of Isis. She's the high priestess. She's called the veiled Isis. So both yods are pointing to these very obviously feminine archetypes. And then, kind of holding fort, is Pluto in one of them. Pluto is the planet of Osiris, who is the husband of Isis and the brother of Nephthys. The other part of the yod, the second yod that's pointing to Neptune, is 29 degrees Libra, which is the south node. So um, there's so many layers. I don't want to confuse everybody, so I'm going to just show you a little picture here. Um, so you can see there's Venus, right? And there's Neptune, there's Pluto. So you can see that pink triangle pointing right over here at Venus. And you can see the blue triangle pointed down. It's like starts here, right? So it goes from the south node in Libra to Venus up in Leo and points down to Neptune in Pisces. It's like if I put this in front of it, I can't see. Um, Anyways, um, I'm doing a whole astrology class on a lot of this in the Venus cycles and the Venus retrograde, especially in particular to marketing and business and relationships. We're going to be talking a lot about the retrograde and also about just the patterns and cycles of Venus and how that has affected, we could look at the historical too, right? Because we can go back and look at all the other times when, Venus was in this cycle. And if you're here, go ahead and leave a comment, say hello. And if you're watching the replay, let me know. So when I'm on Zoom, it's much easier because then I can actually have a screen share and just like have a picture or something or graphic, and then you guys can see it. So we know that, Isis is the Queen Mother. And, she's often called, seen as living in the house of Sothis. So Sothis was another name for Sirius, and Sirius is the spiritual sun. It's the blue star, right? So we just had the Sirius gateway open. That was around July 6th, July 7th. And now we're headed towards the Lion's Gate. And that's, again, it's connected to to Sirius, the star Sirius. So this is a powerful period of, making big shifts and making big changes. And so it's really important to be very intentional during these times and know really what it is that you're moving towards. What is the ideal life? What is the ideal way you want to serve? How are you showing up in the world? And, so again, we're going to talk in layers. The Venus retrograde happens in the sign of Leo. Leo is the sign of the performer. It's the healer, the entrepreneur in the spotlight, the author in the spotlight. It's all about, shining that authentic light. That's what Leo's about. Leo, as a sign, is also the sign of kingship, right? It's the king, Regulus. So in the constellation of Leo, there's a star, a fixed star called Regulus, which is king. And the sign of Leo is also associated in Egyptian shamanic astrology with the god Anubis. And he is the god of the underworld. He's kind of seen as the, illegitimate son of Osiris and Isis. Because, Horus is like the son of the king, right, who becomes the king. And he's also like the legitimate child of Isis and Osiris. So we are not without the masculine in this scenario, right? I'm emphasizing the archetype and the stories of the feminine, the mythology of Isis and Nephthys, Sothis, right? That's also considered Isis. And really, the energies of around this configuration and around the Venus retrograde is about this unconditional mother love, right? The love that is unmovable. So how are we applying that to ourselves? How are we giving ourselves that love? And, when we have the South Node in Libra, that's, a warning, perhaps, to not be into people pleasing, right? To really, to have some stronger boundaries. So we do have the balance of feminine and masculine. We have these different, obviously, strong feminine archetypes literally being pointed to by these finger of God aspects. So these are destiny. So let me look at my notes, make sure I'm covering everything that I wanted to talk about. Also, at the time of the retrograde and the time of this the Yod configuration, Venus is nearly on top of Black Moon Lilith and Mercury. So again, Black Moon Lilith, another feminine archetypes. Lilith was the first wife of Adam. She and Adam were both created together by God in mythology, and so she was his equal. And she refused to always be submissive. So there's different versions of the myth. Some myths she gets kicked out of Eden. Some myths she just takes off. So she definitely becomes demonized for her independence. So we have all these very interesting, complex themes all coming together in this one spot. And that's not all. I mean, there's more. There's so many layers. And if you have questions or feel confused, I wouldn't be surprised, because I'm still trying to wade through it. But I feel like the important thing is to remember to really honor yourself, honor your boundaries. Know that there is this unconditional love that surrounds you, this unmovable love, right? It's the source, the mother love, and it's also being supported by the masculine. So interestingly enough, I also wrote on the board here that we talked about Leo being associated with Anubis. Anubis is also related to the planet of Chiron. So Chiron represents our deepest woundings in this lifetime that we have to overcome. And these are usually wounds that come in through childhood period, right? Childhood, even adolescence. And so, what degree is Chiron at the time of this? Let me see if I can find that. If you have questions while I'm looking for this, feel free. Tell me how you're doing through all this. Okay, I didn't list Chiron. So we're going to go to astro.com and we're going to run the chart again, because I forgot to look where Chiron is definitely in the late degrees of Aries. He's been in Aries since 2019, and depending on what part of your chart Aries is in, and now we have that North Node in Aries, probably sitting right next to Chiron, kind of poking at this spot of vulnerability, right? I'm sorry, it's being a little bit of a pill right now. Let me look up the exact degree of Pluto during. Well, I won't be able to get exact, but I'll get really close. Yeah, Chiron is quite close to the North Node. Let's see, Chiron is at 19 degrees. So they're about 10 degrees apart. So they're far enough apart where they would be considered a conjunction, like but they're not fully right on top of each other, but they're close. So, um, Chiron is, going to be at some point hitting that North Node. Not going to look up that date now because that would take up too much time. But again, it's emphasizing these wounds of childhood that represent something in our lives, a destiny point that we need to, I guess, overcome in some way to, really, what's the word? Integrate and not ignore. So some pain might come up around this. Now, what's interesting, I could tell you from my perspective, Chiron is in my Aries house, and my Aries house is the second house, which represents self-worth, money, material possessions, the body. So since 2019, I've had this in my house, and I've had a lot of financial ups and downs. And I especially have had moments where I've connected my self-worth to how much money I'm making. And obviously, that's not a good thing. So, that wound is coming up so that I can integrate new layers of it, see it, not get triggered by it. So a lot of this depends on what your rising sign is, right? My rising sign is Pisces, so then Pisces and then Aries would be house number 2. So you could always go to astro.com and run your own chart, and you will find out your rising sign. So, okay, so I said already July 22nd is the feast day of Mary Magdalene, again, often associated with Isis and as a high priestess in the Isis temple. So there we have Nephthys, again, the veiled Isis, the sister of Isis, and Isis herself. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's pretty interesting. Both of them, at the time of Venus stationing retrograde, are at the 28-degree mark. So again, the same degrees as the nodes and Pluto. So there is that, putting that emphasis on the feminine, and actually 2 aspects of the feminine, the Isis and the veiled Isis. So I read in another blog by, I don't remember which astrologer, but they talked about, so these, if we think of astrology, right, and there's these 12 houses, like 12 pieces of the pie, and each house is 30 degrees, right? So the fact that all of these things are happening at like 28 and 29 degrees, these are called the 29th degree is the anorectic degree. It's right before we go to the next house. So this is a signal that things are about to change. So you might be feeling that now, but we're headed for a time when, again, we look at all the different themes: kingship, rulership, leadership, right? And the feminine. So people are talking about, could this be, a shift in power? And could it be about balancing power? Libra is the sign of the scales. Libra is about masculine and feminine balance in all things, and justice, fairness. And again, we have Aries at 29 degrees north node, and Libra 29 degrees south node. So when we think of the nodes, are basically called the head and the tail of the dragon. So Aries would be the head of the dragon, Libra is the tail of the dragon. The head of the dragon is the devouring. It's like what it is that you are like just wanting to devour and become and integrate and assimilate. And the tail of the dragon is about what you've already experienced, usually in past lives. So it's not that one's good and one's bad. It's not about that. It's about the dynamic of the dragon's head or the dragon's tail. Which is why, I'm talking about Libra and people pleasing, because that would be the south node of Libra, would be peace at all costs, which we don't want, especially on any level, but on a personal level, looking at this in your personal chart, not just like all these maybe larger themes, leadership and change of power, balance of power, all of that. With the nodes on Aries and Libra, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Aries and Libra, particularly sun and rising, a little bit on the moon, but mostly the rising sign first, the sun secondarily. And then, these are Libra and Aries are like the polar opposites. Aries is about independence, individuality. Libra is about cooperation, teamwork. So again, there's that push and pull. There's a polarity there. Libra is ruled by Venus. Aries is ruled by Mars, right? Aries is about taking action. So the North Node is pointing us, where do we take action? That's why so many people, launching right now is a great time, because the cardinal signs, Aries and Libra, and the cardinal signs are 4 signs: Aries, Libra, Capricorn, and Cancer. So any of those 4 signs, you're definitely going to be feeling intensity over the next year and a half, because that's how long this particular transit lasts. But definitely the focus is on Libra and Aries. I was probably going to say something else, but I'm doing my astrology layer dance. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. What else? There's so much. I have so many notes. Let me see what else. Okay. So here's our little yod picture again. And we want to look at the pink triangle. So that's the one that's pointing up to Venus right here. So you see the pink. So we've got Pluto and Neptune pointing up to Venus. That is really about how are you, or how are each of us able to integrate the desires of our hearts and the soul. Like the Pluto is the soul, and so is Neptune, represents the spiritual. Venus represents earth, the earthly heart desires, and then we have the agape desires of Neptune, again, that unconditional love, and then we have the Pluto desires, right? So that's the soul, the transformation. The soul wants transformation. The soul is always wanting to stretch and expand. So how are we integrating that, especially in a way that is authentic, right? Leo, Venus is in Leo. Leo is the sign of the heart. How are we, expressing and living out our most authentic heart desires? That's super important over the next year and a half. I mean, it's important all the time, right? But this is like the yod. All of this is just pointing to these themes, and it's like putting an exclamation point on them, saying, listen, pay attention. to these things. Okay, I'm going to check my, oh my God, there's so much more. So I'm going to stop here, and I want to pick a card for us from the Keepers of the Light Oracle. This is going to be our collective reading for all of this these yods of, and the nodes of destiny. There's, we're really, this is a huge opportunity for humanity, for each of us to really do our part, do our work in the world, share our gifts in the world. Okay. Okay, who is the Keeper of the Light that wants to be our guides? Oh, this couldn't be more perfect. Lady Nada, Heart Awakening. Look at this. Awaken to acceptance and divine love. Give and receive in balance. So Lady Nada is also connected to Mary Magdalene. Here we have all those roses around her. I'm wondering if Mary Magdalene's going to show up next. Oh, interesting. We got Radha and Ganesh and Mercury. Okay. Never mind. I was like, let's see if we really get the juices flowing here. Okay, so Lady Nada. Lady Nada is said to be another incarnation of Mary Magdalene, but even if she is, the energies are slightly different. Lady Nada is a mighty spiritual priestess of love who once existed in the land of Atlantis. She is the light force that helps us awaken our heart to the divine love we deserve, the light keeper whose essence allows the light within our heart to expand, revealing a true, real, naked, and vulnerable aspect of our soul. She brings an opportunity to experience divine love, whether through a relationship, adventure, or experience. The extended message. The cave of your heart is opening wide for you to experience divine love. You have an opportunity to overcome past pain, heartbreak, and letdowns. This is a wonderful time to cherish and love yourself, and then allow yourself to be cherished and loved by others. If you feel love revealing itself clearly in your heart, have courage and move into a state of trust. You are reminded that when true love is present, when divine love is present, there are no obstacles to overcome. It will be there, clear, pure, and real for you to experience. Your relationships are being brought into harmony on all levels of your life. Give and receive divine love with yourself and all those around you. Okay, it's 11:09. I don't see any comments, so I can't tell if anybody's watching or not, but I think some of you may see the replay in the morning. Oh gosh, okay, at the bottom of the deck, here we go. Isis, there she is. Magic manifesting. Your dreams, visions, and goals are becoming realities. Stay focused. Okay. I'm sending each of you so much love, and thank you for watching. If you've watched the whole thing, I so appreciate you. And if you are so called, I'm doing an amazing class. It's July. It's a 3-day series workshop called Venus Cycles in Your Business. And if you like this, I know you will love that. I'm spending a lot of time really working on the material, downloading it, and doing research and getting it ready for you. So I will post a link to it in the comments. And what else about it do you need to know? It'll be over Zoom, and of course, if you can't be there live, you could get the recordings. It's really one of my great loves and interests to teach the material, to also, obviously, it helps me to know the material and to be able to integrate all of this archetypal energy. So the sharing of these stories, the sharing of these layers will be something that you can take into your own life, into your own business, I'm going to be showing you how to look at your own chart and see where these areas lie, because for each of us, they could be in different houses and in different aspects of our lives where we're going to see the most transformation, where we're going to feel the intensity, okay? It's 11:11 p.m., so I'm going to sign off on that note and sending you all so much love. And hope to see you at the Venus Cycles and Business class and in more lives. Ciao for now.